think it's only fitting to start this episode off just with a big, deep sigh, because, oh man.
Oh, you are teeing this up so good. Enzo, to me, looks like a more agile, basically a young Chess Fabregas.
It's a Rolls Royce, man. Gotta sell it.
Messi is the Jorginho of international football. That was a dumb take.
The flag stays down!
Welcome to another episode of the Flag Stays Down podcast, Mother's Day edition. No mothers on this pod, but goddamn, we love them. So, boys, welcome back to another week. We're 3 in a row here. That's what we call a win streak. That's how we doing on this fine Sunday evening, Parker?
Doing well. This team has me jazzed up again. And I know last week we talked about how it was fun to watch again. And now doing it this way, where it was a bit of a come from behind victory, just has me like completely jazzed about this process, jazzed about the team, where we're going, and the form that we've been in. But so that's got me on a high. Personally, was away all week. I was in Santa Fe, New Mexico, where I recorded last episode. Got back today, and it's good to be back. I won't be back very long, but it's traveling is always fun. Seeing new culture, getting to eat out at new restaurants, go explore new places is always great. But it always reminds me that home is better. Like, for lack of a better phrase, home is better. I'm a homebody, man. I like being home, and it's always fun to get back home and back into my routine. So everything else pretty good. So it was fun weekend away, fun weekend to try new stuff and get away. But glad to be back. And then I'm hoping my Nuggets pull out game 4 tonight, because there is like a 1% chance I'll be able to go to game 6 in Minnesota if that does happen. So we'll see if the cards are in alignment for that, but highly doubt it. But we'll see. Matt, how was your weekend, man?
Yeah, it was pretty good. Had some time with the kiddo on Saturday. My wife was working, so we got up early. Watch some footy. Unfortunately, because of his eating schedule, of course he has to eat. And so he decides, all right, I'll give you the first half. So we took an hour nap during the first half, and then right before kickoff of the second half, all right, I'm going to wake up and now I'm hungry. So I had to feed him all that other fun stuff. So I didn't really get a chance to watch much of the second half, but no, it was good. And then we kind of hung out outside, just enjoyed the beautiful weather. And today, to the shock of both of you, and you guys definitely know this, I'm not one to plan anything, kind of fly by the seat of my pants, and whatever happens. I apparently planned a Mother's Day celebration at my parents' house. So woke up and immediately was like, oh, hey, yeah, we should probably do something for Mother's Day. So I was hitting the grocery store right away, went to church, went right over to my parents, got back, hung out outside, just a jam-packed day. And here we are now. So it was beautiful here. I think it got up to like low 80s. So it was absolutely beautiful. Couldn't ask for a better day. So all is good. And hopefully things are coming to a close at work, which is going to be extremely beneficial. So I'll actually have some time to, kind of do other stuff besides work. But yeah, all is good. All is good. Collins, how was your weekend?
It was good. I'm going to use my time here to plug something my wife is doing. She is running her first ever 5K in July. It's a Wisconsin brain tumor walking race, and my wife has a brain tumor, benign. So it's a cause that's very important to her. She is raising uh, funds for brain tumor research for it. So I'm gonna put it out on the socials, but I'm just very proud of her for getting up and running 3 miles in July for the first time, and supportive of her efforts there. So yeah, a good weekend. All right, well, boys, it was a good weekend because, like I said, we have our third win in a row for only the second time this season. Climbing up the table, well, not really climbing, we stayed level, but Newcastle dropping points is big. Manchester United dropping points is big, and this one was an epic one, come from behind victory. So, initial reactions, Parker, what do you think?
You know, we talked about it a bit before on the pre-pod, but like this one just it felt like a script that we've read before, and for me at least, it was completely flipped on its head. Because the second we went down 2-1, the oh shits and the kind of the groans and the we don't play well away. You know, I was starting to chalk up our 2 home wins as just that, right? We played well in front of Stamford Bridge, don't play well on the road. Credit to the Forest fans. They were loud. They were excited. I know that they got some good news before the match about their chances of staying up, right? So I think the Forest fans were in full voice and, you know, supporting their team as they should, right? And a draw kind of seals that fate in stone, and a win just kind of adds insult to injury. But so I'm really proud of the team pulling off this win from behind in somewhat of like the most unlikely fashion. Raheem Sterling getting the goal that he got, I don't think anyone saw that coming. It just he kind of took a chance to kind of, you know, made a move, did a little bit of a scramble and found a good shot and found a way to slot it. Kind of did it all on his own. And then God, the captain, Reece James, you can't say enough good things about him. It was just great to see him out there. Like the Reece James sighting was just phenomenal. And I think he was on the pitch for like 7-8 minutes, if that. And he finds a way to, you know, put a ball just perfectly for Nico Jackson. It made me wonder, Collins, if Reece James had played all year, would Nico Jackson have 175 goals this year? Because he might have. Like, if all of his services were like that, of course I kid, Matt. Of course I kid. Of course I exaggerate, right? But like, if all of his services were that good, man, I mean, it's amazing how this elite right back comes out of injury, instantly makes a difference, and we all kind of remember and scratch our head and go, "Oh yeah, he really good." And we found a way to work, you know, Mal Gusto and Reece James in there, which I thought was a kind of a fun look for the future of how that partnership could look going forward. So first takeaways was pure joy of how we were able to just find a way to keep the streak alive. It's 9 points in our last 3 matches. We're pushing for 6th. We've got something to fight for. And a lot of this season has been 2 steps forward, 1 step back, or a couple wins in a row, a couple losses in a row, a couple draws in a row, just not the consistent run of form that we've seen. And this one feels, you know, like we're putting some stuff together now, and that we've got some games that we should win to close it out. And it's a good chance and a good something to fight for. So we've got 6th place in our sight, 5th place still statistically possible, but not likely. And I think if we finish 6th, we definitely finish the season on a high note. It's a good way to close the season.
I reverted back to kind of my old ways of I was not happy with the first half. It was slow. It was painful to watch. We start off hot. We give up pretty much a free header to Willy Boley of all people. Like, I didn't even know he was still playing. We saw a lot of the same things of, you know, get the ball to Cole Palmer and hopefully have him do something. I can't tell you how many times we were just stagnant on offense. Even the commentators are like, Cole Palmer is the only person moving out there. Everybody else is stationary. It's a script we've seen before, and it never ends well. But that goal from Palmer to Mudryk, that's Collins. We talk about progression, right? Early on in the season, Misha would have just tanked that, like running way too fast, can't control himself. He controlled himself brilliantly on that one. That to me is, that little glimmer of progress. But credit to the man bun for pulling out all the stops on that one. It was a beautiful ball by Palmer, perfectly weighted. The first touch was just as good, and then just a perfect slot home finish. The goal for the first goal for Forrest, I even mentioned to you guys in the group chat. It was a soft and stupid yellow by Body Shield because we were fine. Like we weren't. It was 3-on-3, and Body Shield was coming back and then we would have had the advantage of 4-on-3. Not a problem. There wasn't much in it, but there's no reason to take that chance and get a yellow that early. And of course, it led to the goal. We saw Nico waste some good opportunities early on as well. So it had like a lot of the same feel as, kind of how we've been playing for, a fair amount of the season. At that point, then I had the what the hell just happened? While I didn't get a chance to watch it, just kind of peeking in and seeing what the scores were. 2-1. I'm like, okay, well, yep, that sounds about right. And of course, it had to be Cho. Like you couldn't. The Premier League script writers were definitely behind this one. And then 5 minutes later, I just go back and check, and all of a sudden it's 3-2. I'm like, what happened? Like, where did this all go? So yeah, I was obviously ecstatic to see the win and to see kind of what happened. But yeah, it did not start off good. Let's put it that way. But end result, we got the job done. That's something that I think we haven't been able to say much this season. But obviously the additions of Reece, Singh and Kunku, Raz kind of coming out of exile or wherever he was, it definitely was beneficial to us, and Gusto as well. We've sung his praises all year. I think for me the biggest thing is the fact that we were able to actually turn things around quickly with impactful subs. That's also something we haven't been able to say much. It's usually, okay, well, who's this kid that we have? We all have to kind of look him up and see, what he's doing or who he is. We actually have, looks like a little bit more depth and some quality depth, not just, 17-year-olds just maybe trying to make their first appearance for the club. It's good to see that. And it shows that glimmer and that bright spot of what this club could be once everybody is back and healthy. We've always been saying, what if Reece is healthy? Well, we saw him for what, 20, 30 minutes. Yeah, we like a healthy Reece James. There's no doubt about that. It's just one of those great things to see. It's that better late than never, and I think we're kind of there. Like this is the time when we need them, considering the position that we're in, kind of what other teams have to do to either help us or hurt us. We have a chance, and we're in a position where we control it more than I think a lot of people probably think we do. But it's definitely an added boost to the squad. We now have the flexibility to do some other things and move some people around, and kind of go from there. So I like the way that we're positioned for the last match of the season, and we're kind of all set and ready to go.
Yeah, Matt, I agree with you, but it felt a lot like how it's felt, recently or over the course of the season. Give up a free header off of a free kick. That's classic Chelsea. But I will give credit where credit is due. I'm still not sold on Poch for the project, but he got his subs right again. He made tactical changes, which we had asked for, right? The Cucurella inverted wingback was not working in that first half, and he changed that. We've been asking for Mudryk to get a run of games. He's gotten his run of games and got a goal out of it this time. There's been positive changes, and if you look back just a couple weeks ago, the Arsenal loss and then the first half of Villa, this team last year's iteration of this team would have shut down for the rest of the season. I will give these guys credit. I will give Poch credit that he has not lost the locker room. These guys seem to be fighting for him or for each other or for the club. It's got to be one of the three or some mixture. But they have yet to give up, and that's something that I will say has been almost a theme of maybe the second half of the year, not the entire year. But no lead, whether we have the lead or the opponent has the lead, is safe. We will always fight to either pull away or give it away. So got to give these guys credit. All right. Well, a couple of those guys you guys mentioned, Reece James and his return of the king, return of the captain. Oh, good to see him. But what impact does he bring to this team down the stretch here?
He's a fucking unit. I mean, did you see him? Good Lord. Forget the ankle injuries, the hamstring, nah, screw all that. I'm just going to build up my upper body, start looking like Adama Traore out there, and just start absolutely bodying people without a care in the world. Oh, and just for shits and gigs, I'm going to blow right past you on the right side and just put in a delicious ball that anybody can score. Just for funsies. He looked like a man who was pissed off that he wasn't able to be a part of this season. And he came out just doing his thing. And we haven't really seen that. Like Malo Gusto, we know what he can do. He's only 20, 21 years old. He's going to be damn good. But Reece is a Reece. We talked about how good Malo Gusto is, but then compare it to Reece, he shut down a lot of stuff on that right. His ability to go forward, we all know about it. And just his presence, right? He's back on the pitch. That alone speaks volumes to, I think, what the rest of the team was able to do. We've clearly missed him, and he showed why. It's for me, it's very simple. That's Reece. That's what he does. When he's on the pitch, he's on the pitch in one way or another. And we definitely saw that. We've definitely missed that, and it was great to see him back out there.
So aside from the phenomenal assist, the things that I've missed a lot about Reece James that you forget about because it's not top of mind. You don't watch him every game anymore. His control is superb. And then his calmness out there is just it's way beyond his years. His confidence on ball and his body positioning, when you just watch him play, he's just smart. He knows what's happening. He knows everything that's going on around him. And then when he has to get physical, he can, because to your point, Matt, he has the physicality to sort of back it. So he can put himself in between, man and ball to just kind of create that space, buy himself an extra half a second to make the right choice, right? But that cool under pressure, swagger that he carries with him, he just is very sure of himself. He's really confident in his abilities, and it sort of just reeks and just exudes on the pitch, right? He just has that calmness that everyone just gets attracted to. And then it's not just show, he has the ability to go up and down. He's got the ability to put the perfect cross in. And it was just the perfect time to kind of re-announce like his return. You know, it is like, allow me to reintroduce myself. My name is Reece James. Hi, I've been away for a while and I'm back. You know, his Instagram post, "Are you entertained?" It sums it up. And then like when you go through like the comments and just see all of his teammates that just stand behind him and support him as a player, as a human, he's a captain. He is our captain. We've had a captain out there that has not the same abilities to lead nor play out there, and Connor's done a great job for us in an interim sort of a way. He wasn't our designated captain, nor was he our designated vice captain out there. Like I said, Connor has stepped in and done a great job given the circumstances, given the questions he gets from the media, given his experience and his level and where he's at. But he is not Reece James, and Reece James is Reece James, and he is back. And it's just like, it made me all smiles, man. It made me all smiles from the second he got subbed in to the second he, you know, walked off clapping the fans and celebrating the win. It's just, it was perfect.
You stole my thunder a little bit there. Leadership is absolutely what he brings to the table. Matt, I know you're talking a little bit about Malo Gusto. Malo Gusto can fit in at right back, and we would be just fine. What pushes Reece James over the edge? Not only his attacking ability, it's far superb in Malo Gusto, but is that leadership. And you saw in the post-match celebrations, the boys kind of rallying around Reece. You saw Mudryk run up to him, hug him, say, "He's back, he's back." Yeah, it's definitely a positive having him back, and somebody out there who can actually lead the line. Somebody who can designate a penalty taker, someone who can argue with the ref. No, Connor has been decent as a player this year. He's been terrible as a captain. Reece James coming back gives us stability on the field, on the pitch, which is a plus in and of itself. But another player who's been a positive, maybe flies under the radar. Well, he doesn't fly under the radar. People are calling him a flop. But Nicolas Jackson has now surpassed Didier Drogba's first-year numbers with the club, and has also exceeded Kai Havertz's numbers, who's having a resurgent season. I feel like we ask this not every week, but every other week. Do you bring in another striker, or is Nico Jackson turning into that Chelsea number 9?
Collins, why don't you start us off on this one?
I don't like going out and buying Osimhen. I wouldn't mind Sesko, but I could take it or leave it with him. I have seen, the rumors of around Ivan Toney have dropped off. There's the striker for Stuttgart or Leverkusen, or one of those German clubs, Ganassi, something like that. Putting up good numbers in the Bundesliga. He's 28 years old. He's got like a $20 million release clause, something like that. I've seen rumors swirling around him. I wouldn't mind that kind of sign. Let Nico Jackson be your number 1. Give him somebody with experience to kind of build off of. I know a couple weeks ago, Parker, you and I talked about a Samuel Eto'o type or a Demba Ba type. All in on that. But Nico, in his second professional season, top flight professional season, has put up 17 goals in all competitions in the Premier League, one of the most physical leagues in the world. No, he's just fine, and he will only continue to grow. Let Nico ride.
I think you need another striker. And Collins, before you jump down my throat, I think you need another striker to continue to push Nico. I think that's the only way you're going to keep getting the most out of him. Not to mention what we've talked about, right? He's played like the most amount of minutes, maybe behind Enzo this season, something ridiculous, like 93% of all minutes or something ridiculous. He needs a break, right? Everybody on the team needs a break at some point. You don't have anybody else. Do you go out and get a big name? I'm not going to speculate on that. That's up for the owners to decide. I don't know if a big name striker helps or hurts the club. I really I could see the argument both ways, but either way, you do need another striker, right? We've talked about Broya and kind of what's going on with him. I don't think he's going to be the guy to push Nico. I don't think he's at that level, but you do need somebody else that can come in, because if you're just the default option, right? You might be the best option, but either way, if you're the default option, you know that no matter how bad you play, you're always going to get the nod. That's my biggest thing is I don't want to see complacency out of Nico. I feel like we might have seen that a few times this season, but I think in order to get the best out of him, you do need another striker to challenge, not necessarily overtake, right? That's going to be up for Nico and whoever else we get to kind of figure out who's going to be the number one. But you need somebody to get in there and keep pushing Nico to become better and better every single day. If you don't have that, then he might just end up being, I don't know how many Premier League goals he has this season, but he might just end up being like a 10 to 15 goal scorer and just go from there. But if we think that he's capable of doing more and being a 20 goal a year scorer, then you need to keep pushing him, because otherwise we'll just fall into that trap. So I think you bring somebody in, whoever that is. I just hope it's somebody who pushes him.
Yeah, the cool thing about Nico this year is he has gone, I think in a lot of people's minds, he's gone from a do we keep him, sell him, loan him, to a we have to keep him, and what else is there around it. But like, I think most people want to keep him now and not get rid of him. So that's a plus, right? Like, at the very worst, we'd probably be able to sell him for a heck of a lot more than we paid for him. And like, that's a win on the financial books. So I think he's done a lot to prove himself. I think he's finally been able to kind of convert on some of the chances that we've all seen him get into, which helps his cause a lot. But Nico does a lot of the intangibles as well, which you want to see as part of the full package of how you evaluate a striker. I'm more in the Matt camp here, where I want to see us bring in some competition. And I don't necessarily, so I'm kind of splitting between the two of you. I want another sort of Nico-like signing to come, and I want them to battle it out, for who kind of gets the important minutes, we're playing City in a cup semifinal match minutes, like who ends up getting those minutes. I think is going to be kind of sought after and fought between the two of them. I don't necessarily know who that is, and I don't really care who that is. I don't think it's a big name striker signing, because I don't think we do well with big name striker signings. I don't think they typically pan out super well for us. But I do want it to be like some of the other positions we have, where it's like, oh, we've got options here. Oh, we've got two people who are playing really well. And guess what? If they kind of like falter and they kind of have a step behind, we've got someone waiting to take their spot who's also really hungry. We've got a lot of names out there that have kind of been floated as potential successors to thrones, like a Cesare Cassidy or Andres Santos, who are like talents that they, if a Caicedo lets up, which he hasn't, he's been phenomenal. But if he lets up, he knows that there's hungry dudes behind him that have real fucking talent that can do a lot of damage. And I think like that kind of pressure, like we want to be three people deep at positions. We don't want to have one option. Nico needs someone to take some of the load off of him. Matt, I looked it up on the transfer market website, and he's played 81% of minutes this year for Chelsea. That's too many, especially for his work rate. Like he runs a lot. Like he does a lot for us. It's too many. He needs a bit of a break. If we're in Europe next year, which I'm fully expecting us to be, we're playing more matches. We need more people. We need more bodies to cycle in and out. So competition, good. People to cycle in and out, good. Iron sharpens iron. I'll drop a cliche in there. Good. I think when we're deep at positions, we're better for it. We've talked about the center back, how deep we've been at that position. Form kind of comes and goes in that position, and we've been able to put out a solid center back pairing for almost every single match because of it. That's because we're 5 deep there, not because we're 2 deep there and they've played fantastically every single time. No, we've had options, we've had injuries, we've had to cycle in and out, and it's ended up working out for us. So I think I'll give Nico some praise. He's done a great job. And I think a mid signing, call it between 25 and 40 million at the striker position, does a lot of good for us as we look forward to the future too.
Let me float a couple names by you here. I floated the guy from Stuttgart, who I still can't remember what the hell his name is. Oh, Serhu Girassi. Is who that is. But there are 2 Premier League proven strikers who I think are going to be available. One who just deleted all references to his club on Instagram in Darwin Nunez. The other being a striker for a team that might not make Europe because of us and is going to need to comply with FFP. That's Alexander Isak of Newcastle. Would you take either of those for decent money?
Isak intrigues me, not Nunez.
Absolutely no to Darwin. Like, we're trying to fix the biggest problem we have, which is converting golden opportunities. He is worse at that than Nico. Why in the hell would we? No. I like Alexander Isak. I think he brings, I think, that finishing aspect, and he's a similar play style to Nico. I think that it's a very good comp if you were to look at the 2 of them. I'm watching Isak play this year and even a little bit last year. I like what he does, and he has that edge to me in finishing ability. His work rate's pretty good. I mean, Nico sets the bar very high. So to say that his work rate might not be the same as Nico's is kind of unfair because Nico is through the roof. But I see them as similar players. I would not mind having him on board at all. The only problem is what's going to be the fee to get him. And I think it's going to be very steep. So that's the only issue. I could easily see him being like 80, 90 in that range. And I don't think he's worth that, but it's a Premier League club, so you're gonna have to pay up to get that.
See, and I think he's available for 50, 60, somewhere in there. Again, Newcastle not making Europe and only been in Europe for 1 out of the last however many years. Their FFP number is a lot different than what ours is. They are going to need money ASAP. So it would not surprise me to see Newcastle almost get a little ripped off for a 20-goal score. But Matt, I agree with you. I think I think he is similar to Nico Jackson. And that's what worries me. If we're playing a style that does not, fit well against an opponent, which we've seen teams playing low block, we do not do well with. And it's not working for Nico. What's to say it's going to work for Isak? Out of those 2, I think I would go Darwin Nunez. I think he has more winning pedigree. He's been on the better side of some matches as compared to some of the youngsters on our squad. He's 24. Yeah, and he makes a lot of those same runs. He's not a similar player, but he likes to creep in behind, kind of like a Timo Werner, like a Nico Jackson. But he's not that exact comp. And he's a guy who gives you that fire, somebody who's going to get in the face of the other team, which is something that I like and appreciate. So I like both, but I think I would lean Darwin over Isak.
It's kind of funny because I've been looking both players up, and both have a market value of 70 million, and both are 24-year-old strikers in the Premier League, right? Like, so they're different play styles. I wrestle with this because you mentioned a good point, Collins, which is like, if something's not working for Nico, what's say it to work for Isak, right? Like if you sub like for like, but I also believe in like if you're building a style and a team around kind of a way of doing things, having two separate strikers ends up hurting you in the long run, because then it's like, oh well, when we have Nunez, we have to play like this. And we felt that way with Rom, right? When we had Rom out there, we had to play a specific way to like best unlock him and best utilize him. And it wasn't the way the team wanted to play, but like we've got this 90 million pound striker out there. We have to kind of acknowledge his presence a little bit. And then it kind of fucked up the rest of the chi of the team where no one really wanted to play that way. And like, I think Nunez has the ability to do that a little bit, not to the same degree, but like, I like having a like for like in there, because what, you know, we beat on the wall for 70 minutes, you sub in like for like with fresh legs, and you know, kind of someone who's been wanting to get in there for the first 70 minutes and then gets to come off the bench for it. I think that helps unlock both of those players a little bit more. So I wouldn't mind seeing it. I also wouldn't mind seeing a system and where both of them can kind of play together, where you have one playing underneath another. Nico has proven to be a decent left winger, or a decent kind of 10 in that sort of system too. So Nico likes to play off people. Nico likes to get people involved, arguably more than he should sometimes, but he likes to play off of people. And, you know, we've seen bits and pieces of that as the season has gone on. So don't hate that link up.
Yeah, the way I look at Isak is he's a more refined version of Nico now, right? He, you know, you mentioned the age. Nico is 21, Isak is 24. They're effectively the same player, but Isak is more refined because he's 3 years older. That's kind of how I compare them. And Isak has played on the left too, so he can also do that. So I think that also kind of adds to that, is you can switch them at any given point. If one of them's, let's say, just not seeing the runs one of the days and just whatever, swap them. Just put one on the left and put the other at striker. I think that it's a very interesting thought at what that could be, if they would, you know, obviously be given the opportunity to A, be on the same team, and B, play at the same time. It would make for a very dynamic attack, even more dynamic than kind of what we're seeing over the last, you know, month and a half, 2 months.
Well, you did mention, Parker, you mentioned Mudryk, I believe, a little bit there. He's another guy I want to touch on, because I think we saw, you know, between the two sides, two different left wingers. You know, we got Callum Hudson-Odoi, who I forgot was on the team as of the first like 3 matches of the year. But then we had Mudryk, who at one point I forgot was on the team for the first like 4 matches of the year, because coach didn't play him. So there's already talk of us going out and buying more young left wingers in Esteval Willian. You have some wingers coming back from loan. You got a former winger against current winger. You had Raheem Sterling score. What the hell are we supposed to make out of the left wing position?
I feel like it's up for grabs, man. It's one of our few positions that doesn't have a clear answer. We've got a couple of options. None of them seem great or 100% certain. There's pros and cons depending on who you play and in what position you play them and how you play them. So, look, I'll just focus on Mudryk for a quick second. Similar to Reece James, he just looks fit. He just looks really physically fit out there. And he's also young. And it makes me excited to see like a young, just physically gifted person who's fast and physical. And it feels like he's kind of like a baby bird, where he doesn't have it all together yet. And he is top heavy and he's wobbling around a little bit out there. Not fully sure of any of the moves that he's making yet, but he's trying. he's doing things, and like his highlight reel this year is both spectacular and horrible all at the same time, because he's got like a high highlights reel and a pretty low lowlights reel. But I think he's definitely still the work in progress we thought he was, but he's got a ton of upside. Raheem, I don't necessarily want to talk too much about him. I don't think he's part of our future. It's known I don't like him, but I just don't think he adds much to the future going forward. So I don't really, want to spend a ton of time dissecting that. Look, I saw the goal that Mudryk had where he controlled it. Matt, you talked about it in the intro. It's like the way he controlled that. Also, the way he didn't play in Nico, which I thought he was going to, and especially like looking back on replays, Nico kind of had a half step. Thought he would have forced the ball there, didn't, just took it himself. Like those are the moments of growth I've seen out of him. And if we want to sign and the Brazilian Willian again, I'm not against that. I think more competition there is going to be a good thing. More youth on that wing is going to be a good thing. And we have talked about, like, is it going to be Sterling? Is it going to be Mudryk? I think if we have two solid options out on that left wing, it's going to be a good thing for us. Sterling has been the other option, but he hasn't been great. And so he's been more of like the default, and then kind of like I don't really want to see him come in. I don't know about you guys, but when he got subbed in, I was not happy. And then when he scored, I was like, oh, okay. I was more happy about it, but I still don't want to see him in there, because I don't see him part of our future, and I just don't see him part of like everyone else that's fired up about this team. He just doesn't seem like he has that level to him. Mudryk, I think, is part of the project, and then we'll see what this young kid, this young Brazilian, has to offer too.
I'm just thinking about this. We're not going to see these kids that we're signing for like another 5 years. So like, fine, if we want to buy everybody, go ahead, but you're not going to see the benefits of that for at least 5 years. I don't know that signing them brings in competition like right away. Given a couple of years, yeah, then there could be some competition. I don't know that there really would be right off the bat. But if this kid is as good as everybody's saying he is, then fine. But keep in mind, you're a 17-year-old and you have those kind of comparisons being thrown out there. That's a lot to live up to. That's a lot of pressure. And if you don't, that is something. And if you're not able to handle that, that will kill a career very quickly. But we'll see. Right now, I think you have to go with Mudryk on the left. There's nobody else currently that is outplaying him on that left. We've talked about seeing Nico on the left, but then who are you going to put up top? You're going to put Mudryk up top. You're not getting the best out of him there. And then you're also not really getting the best out of Nicolas Jackson. Mudryk has to be on the left. We've begged for runs of games for him. Let him grow in confidence. He is a confidence player. We've already seen that. He's had a run of games. Let him keep going. He's doing a lot of good things. He's doing the dirty work, right? How many times have we seen him track back, which is something that I've never seen a left winger do for us in a very, very long time. He is actually tracking back, getting back there, not afraid to get dirty. I like it. He plays with that edge. He has that fire. Like, he's the kind of guy you want, going forward. We know about his pace. We've seen the growth, I think, this year that a lot of people were looking for last year. We've seen it now, right? We've seen it with consistent playing time and a consistent side, right? He knows Nico's going to be up there. He knows what the midfield's going to look like. He knows, for the most part, who his left back is, at least in the last 2 months, right? he knows where everybody's going to be. It's one of those things where as he gets time and as the entire team gets time, everybody starts to know where everybody's going to be. And we're seeing that, right? Like I talked about it before. The pass from Cole Palmer to Mudryk for that first goal, fantastic. The run that Mudryk made, absolutely perfect. Because they've played enough with each other now. They know where they're going to be. That only helps. We've seen Mudryk's ability on corners, right? I talked about it last week. He puts in a damn good ball. And even not from corners, just in general, he usually puts in a very dangerous ball. He's got everything going for him. And I still think it's a project with him, but it is going to reap benefits over the coming years. He just has that factor to him, and I think we're still just scratching the surface with him.
Yeah, and I think it's exactly like the way I explained it when we first started on this buying youngsters role of the more lottery tickets you buy, the better chance you have to hit. Mudryk doesn't work out. Well, then you got Esteval Willian coming in, who, just as a side note here, Chelsea, I feel, or at least Chelsea fans have FOMO from missing out on Vinicius, Rodrigo, Neymar. Were all players that we were linked to. Real Madrid eventually nailed it there. We haven't been able to nail that next big phenomenon out of Brazil. So everything I'm reading is that Esteval is that guy. He's more highly rated apparently than Neymar was coming out of Brazil, which was pretty high. Parker, I remember us buying Neymar on countless career modes.
Every career mode on FIFA before his price quadrupled year over year. Yes, absolutely.
So if Mudryk doesn't work out, which, man, I don't know. I'm looking at the numbers here, and the goals and assists per game don't look great, but you got to remember he didn't start much. He didn't play that many minutes earlier in the year. It was 10 minutes here, 10 minutes there. You look at his per 90, and he's putting up about 0.4 goals and assists per 90, which is great for a winger. It's not excellent, but it's great. So I'm encouraged by that. But again, doesn't work out, next man up. And the same goes on the right. We had a couple options there, and Cole Palmer rose to the top. But let's say you move him centrally, or something doesn't work out with him, or you want to get within FFP regulations, you need to sell him for 200 million pounds. Kendry Paez is looking real good in South America right now. So you got him coming up. So keep buying. That's all you can do. And Cobham will supplement that as well. But again, the more lottery tickets you buy, the better off you're going to be. So I'm here for it. If Mudryk works out, great. If he doesn't, great. we got more.
So I'll finish that point, Collins, just with this quickly, because I mentioned this to you before the podcast started. It's like, if you're a fan of the top six, so if you're Arsenal, I feel like you're kind of towards the top of where your ceiling is. They're playing great. They're playing, they're sort of peaking right now. Man City's on the downfall. They're looking at a less than 100-point season in the Premier League, which is not normal for them, right? So they're kind of coming down. Their squad is aging, not necessarily where they want to be. Liverpool is sort of at their peak with their team, and with Klopp kind of coming to an end. Mo Salah's career in a little bit of disarray, not knowing where that's going to go. Villa, Tottenham, Newcastle, all towards where they're going to be. Sort of Tottenham's that perennial fourth. Villa's kind of peaked and then kind of come back down a little bit. Newcastle fizzled out a little bit. You get to Chelsea, United, West Ham, Brighton. Like, I feel like all of the momentum is in Chelsea's corner here, where we are nowhere close to the best that we should look. And yet we're kind of streaking towards the good here. And it makes me excited. It makes me excited that we have also people returning from injury. We have lottery tickets that haven't paid out yet. We have a young team that is only going to get better with age. Because when you have 22-year-olds out there, 21-year-olds out there, as 23, 24, 25-year-olds, when they're kind of getting into their peak, like we're getting to be a team that can be considered good before all of that happens. And then it could be really scary, like when they kind of hit that peak level too. So I think we mentioned this like months ago, right? Where Chelsea's trying to time this out to capitalize on not necessarily this year, but on 3, 4, 5 years from now. And I think you kind of see it. Like the writing's on the wall for a couple of these teams that they're sort of at their max limit unless they change something pretty drastically. And look, City's going to change something at some point. Liverpool's going to change something at some point. They're going to pivot. They're not going to just like sit and be complacent and let it happen. I'm not stupid, right? They're going to do something to figure it out. As long as Pep is with City, I'm betting on them to win the league. Like that's just kind of the constant. But I think as a fan that's followed this club for a while, like I'm seeing a lot of the puzzle pieces come together and the picture is becoming a lot clearer. And 6 months ago, we had a quarter of the picture and you couldn't really tell exactly which way it was going to go. Now I think we've got a lot more of the picture in front of us, and not all the pieces are final, but I'm starting to like what that picture looks like. It's looking dynamic. It's looking like it can be something that's withstand for the future, that can pivot when needed. It can have people go down with injuries and still not fail. Like there's a lot of good things going for us. And I know I'm kind of the optimist on the pod that tries to always look for the glass half fullness of this season, but it's fun when it kind of comes together, and it's fun when you can kind of see the grander vision of it and cheer for that.
No, and I think you're spot on. And I don't remember what episode that was that we were talking about it. If one of you listeners wants to find out and leave it in a 5-star review, I'll mail you some merch that we don't have yet. But no, I wholeheartedly agree. Like you said, I think Arsenal's at their peak. City have 2 years left, I would say, before Pep's gone. Liverpool are gonna fall off. Maybe not by a lot, but enough. And then from there down to 9th, I would say it's a crapshoot. Now, again, we are a U23 team with Thiago Silva. So I think we have the best chance to grow out of any of those teams. Now, someone could come in at Manchester United and break the ship, and then that's problems. I think they have talent to be up there. But yeah, no, this is being timed exactly like American sports, where you go down when your rivals are at their strongest, unfortunately, or you don't see an opportunity to compete while your rivals are at their strongest. So you tear it down and you build for that next run. It's almost I don't want to call it another loophole because it's not a loophole, but it's a different way of seeing the game that we see more commonly here in the U.S. So yeah, 2-3 years from now, when our U23 team is a full senior team, I think it works perfectly. Arsenal will be coming down, City will be down, Liverpool will be down, and it should be, for the first time in, at that point, almost a decade, us fighting for the league.
And that's the exact catch-22 I was going to mention. Like, because you do it this way, you have to compete. Like, you have to be top 2 and not 2. You got to win. You got to win, and you got to put trophies in the cabinet. You can't settle for 4th anymore. It's like if you tear it down, you strip it bare, and then you try to time it out. Like, you got to capitalize because there aren't many chances to win. Your window closes quick, and you got to put trophies in the cabinet to then solidify yourself. And I feel like if Blueco and Bowley and crew can do that, they'll be praised, right? I mean, we're a results-based business. If they can win the Champions League, if they can win the league, if they can compete consistently for those trophies, they'll be loved. Until that happens, they'll be hated. And if you continue to finish near 12, you'll be despised, and your head will be called for. So, like, that's reality at Chelsea. But I think if you can get on a run here and turn it into, something that looks consistent and, fight for the league and then win a couple of leagues and win a couple other trophies, then the plan works. But you got to do it. You got to execute the plan.
Well, before we close up shop here, let me ask you guys something based on some Pochettino interviews this week. He was once again asked about his job, whether he feels safe in his job. And he basically came out and said, well, it's a two-way street. The owners have to be happy with me to keep my job, but I have to be happy with them. Basically saying he can walk away at any moment. So I think that sparks the question, who needs who more? Does Chelsea need Poch or does Poch need Chelsea?
So first thing, I love the quote, to be completely honest. He's not wrong. Like, you can't hate him. Like, if he's not happy, then yeah, he has the right to say, yeah, it's just not working out. Like, okay, I'm done. He's not wrong. And I think that's the whole thing, the whole uproar is, well, oh, maybe he's not happy. Maybe he's gonna. No, he's just calling out facts that are there. He's not saying anything that's not outlandish. As far as who needs who more, I think Chelsea needs Pochettino more than Pochettino needs Chelsea. If this whole thing starts to backfire, like you guys have just talked about, it's up to the ownership, right? The ownership are the ones who make the call on who the manager is. That's on them. And I think it's going to look really bad on this new ownership group if you fire arguably one of your most winning managers during a stint with Tuchel, and you bring in Frank Lampard to try and steer the ship, which failed miserably. And then you put all your eggs into the basket, you lay it out for Poch, say, here's the plan. We're trusting you with this. It's going to be a project. Like, it's not a secret. The players even call it a project. It's not top secret to anybody. They picked him for this. If you're saying after a year into this project that it's not going to work, then you're starting over again and you have to go and find the right guy to do it, which at that point, like Parker, you had just talked about, you have to hit this window that we're about to. You have to hit it. You have to get it right. If we're in year 4 and we've had 4 different managers at that point, we don't stand a chance. I really don't think we do. You need some sort of consistency on and off the pitch in order to make this work. If it doesn't, it looks terrible for Chelsea ownership. So right now, I think Chelsea needs Pochettino more than Pochettino needs Chelsea.
I agree. I think the club need him more than he needs the club. But it is a tight race, I will say. You look at who's available out on the manager market, and all of the hot names have told somebody in the know, Fabrizio or Ornstein or anybody else, like, no, not interested in the Chelsea job. I don't think you're going to get a very decent manager in this market unless you want a project manager, somebody who will be a project to run your club. And God, even if you want to bring back somebody who has Chelsea links, I mean, you could, but every manager going back to 2011 who was managed for Chelsea, Carlo Ancelotti being that one, is now unemployed or has been unemployed for years. Tuchel is the hot name out there, but he just led Bayern to their first trophyless season in what, 18 years? Ugh.
To be fair, I put that on Harry Kane, actually, not Thomas Tuchel.
I don't know. Somebody's got to lead that group, though. But I don't know. There doesn't seem to be a wealth of coaches and managers that are out there this year, like there was last year. Now, with that being said, I think this season, yes, Poch has turned this season around. Things have improved, but it's still, you look at the resume and it's like, oh, you led Chelsea to 7th. Ugh, like that's not great. He's not going to get a top job after this season. No one is going to be clamoring for Maurizio Pochettino in a top level. A Bayern Munich is not going to be coming around like, oh yeah, we want Poch in there. So I think they both need each other, but a little bit more the club needs him at the moment.
The one thing I'll say that hasn't been is I think Poch doing what he's done this year from an objective, like what did you do with what you had mentality. I think most clubs in the world would look at that favorably. He took a U21 team that finished 12th or 11th last year, whatever it was. He improved on almost every metric except for like goals conceded, but he improved on the team. He improved on the points year over year. The team has better chemistry. The team actually wants him there. So that's something that we haven't seen out of a Chelsea squad in a long time. So like he got the players to at least buy into him. So if he gets canned, like I don't think he has a problem finding a job because he came into a Chelsea team that was on fire and struggling, and he actually righted the ship, which again, to my earlier comments, like could be the start of something really, really good. Could be the start of something that is phenomenal. Yeah, potentially, right? Like we've got a lot of building blocks in place that could dominate / compete for the league in the next 3, 4, 5 years. So he's gonna get some of that credit, whether he stays or not. Like he's gonna get some of that credit as part of the laying the foundation for what was. So I think he doesn't have a problem finding a job. So I think Chelsea need him more. I think Chelsea also needs stability more than anything right now. I think we put a ton of variability into this squad in the last 18 months. There's been a ton of turnover. And then if you go back even further than that, like just as a club level, right? Like it's just everything's changed. And right now, consistency is more valuable than I think something might be better. And for that sake, I think keeping him for a decent while is worth our while because he is decent. And we've talked about this last week before, but he might not be our manager in year 3, year 4, year 5, and that's fine. But he is good enough to get us over the hump and into the next kind of league and tier. He might not be able to lead us to the treble, but we're not looking for him to do that today. So let him be the one to lead us into the decently good, high performing good, and then find someone to take us to great. I'm all right with that.
Well, while this isn't Pochettino's 1-year anniversary of being on the job, it is the 1-year anniversary, May 12th, of Fabrizio Romano. Here we going, Pochettino signing down the dotted line. So congrats to 1 year of signing for the boss man, Mauricio Pochettino. We'll see if he makes it to year 2. All right. Well, boys, it's been another wonderful week. I will say, make sure to follow us on social media at Flag Down Pod. Make sure to subscribe, rate, and review. We were on the U.S. Top Soccer Podcast for Apple last week for all of about 4 minutes. But thank you to everyone who listened. That's always wonderful seeing your name up there in lights. So if you want to help us, make sure to subscribe, rate, and review. On that note, boys, closing thoughts.
We're almost through hell. We'll see what happens to finish out the season.
Season's done in a week. It's kind of crazy.
Thank God. Well, boys, it's been a wonderful week. We'll talk again at the end of the season and have our end of year awards show next week. Cheers.
Cheers, boys.
See ya.